Okay, we are recording, so I will let everyone into the lobby. Okay, great. Everyone is in the lobby and we are recording, Ross, so whenever you would like to start.
Thank you. Good afternoon and welcome to this meeting of the Northern Beaches Local Planning Panel. My name is Ross Bonthorn and I will be chairing today's meeting. Let me start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands on which we meet today and by paying respect to the elders past, present and emerging. May I also welcome my fellow panel members, Sue Weatherly, David Epstein and Sue Denham, and ask them to briefly introduce themselves. So, Sue Weatherly, if you could introduce yourself briefly, please.
Yes, I'm Sue Weatherly. I have a long-standing background in local government and planning, and I'm one of the appointed experts for the panel.
Thank you. And David?
David Epstein. I'm an architect and urban designer. Been working in local government and for local government and in the private sector for over 25 years. I'm on a number of other panels as well, and today I'm an expert panel member.
And Sue Denham?
Good. Hello, I'm Sue Denham. I'm the community representative for today's meeting.
Thank you. My name, as I mentioned, is Ross Bonthorn and I'm an architect and urban planner. I served on the Sydney City Council for many years and was appointed to establish Pittwater when the secession happened and then was subsequently elected to Pittwater Council. During that time, for some 29 years, I was employed as the principal architect and board member for the Lendlease group of companies. And I'm currently retained and working on a number of major projects, both in this country and overseas, at a strategic and conceptual level for large-scale mixed-use urban development type projects. Can I also acknowledge the council staff members that make these meetings possible and welcome members of the public present today. This meeting provides an opportunity for oral submissions to be made to the panel by members of the community and the public. It is not a forum for debate or discussion between the applicant, objectors or members of the public. Registered speakers will be allowed 3 minutes to address the panel and may be given a further minute to sum up. Following the presentations and submissions, the panel members may ask questions or seek further clarification from any speakers or presenters. The public meetings are video and audio recorded and will be available later on Council's website. At the end of this public meeting, the panel will retire into a closed session to deliberate and determine a decision which will then be published on the Council's website within 24 to 48 hours. I would like now to formally declare today's Northern Beaches Local Planning Panel meeting on the 10th of December open and move to the published agenda. Item 1, apologies and declarations of interest. Do I have any apologies or declarations of interest? No apologies? For abundant, from other members, or no declarations of interest?
No, not from me.
Thank you.
No declaration of interest.
And we've all signed forms.
And none for me either, thank you.
Thank you. For abundant caution, I wish to declare a potential perceived non-pecuniary interest in item 5.1, which is 3 Central Road, Avalon Beach, due to a submission from a social acquaintance from the adjoining property at 693 Barrenjoey Road. Accordingly, I will not participate in the discussion or determination of this item, 5.1, and have submitted a form to this effect. I'll move then from item 1 to item 2, minutes of the previous meetings. The panel notes the minutes of the Northern Beaches Local Planning Panel meeting held on the 3rd of December were adopted by the chairman and have been posted on Council's website. Then I'll move on to the other items which are on the agenda. Item 3, There are no Category 3 applications to be considered. Item 4, there are 4 items, and there is a request from speakers for some of those items for this. The first item is item 4.1, which is for 7 to 8 Coronation Street, Mona Vale. It's a modification of a DA consent, and I will ask those who are wishing to address the panel if they are available and would like to speak, as we said, for 3 minutes, and there'll be a little bell that rings and another minute just to sum up, if you would, please. So is Mark Wiseman available?
Yeah, I'm online.
Mark, thank you very much. You, as you heard, if you would address the panel, and we would wait for you to talk to us, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, planning panel and members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Mark Wise. I'm representing the owners of 28, 30 and 32 Cook Terrace. 30's away and 32 may come on as well, I'm not quite sure. I also lodged development applications professionally with council, particularly those involving view loss and building bulk. There's 4 issues I'd like to raise. Number 1, no height poles. The assessment report states we did not allow access to view the loss and bulk. This is incorrect. We specifically requested that Officer Maxwell Duncan arrange height poles showing both the approved DA height and the modified height before any inspection. That request was never followed up. No height poles were installed, and it appears now the officer is no longer with council. Height poles are a standard practice for any DA involving view impacts. Without them, view loss cannot be accurately assessed, bulk and scale cannot be properly evaluated, and residents cannot understand the true visual impact. Despite the 1.1 metre height increase, the assessment has been completed without the primary tool needed to verify impacts, undermining the reliability of the conclusions. Issue number 2 is the inconsistent assessment of view loss and bulk. In the original DA, council planner Anne-Marie Young found the design was excessive, contributing to view loss and unreasonable bulk, which led to a 700mm height reduction to RL 33870, later endorsed by this panel as reasonable. But here we are again today, 3 years later, and a new developer, a modified DA, reinstates that 700mm and adds another 400mm, increasing the height by 1.1 metres to RL 34975. Higher than the design previously deemed excessive, yet the current report describes the impacts as minor. This is not consistent with the original analysis and does not reflect the actual impact on Cook Terrace residents. Height non-compliance along the southern boundary, it represents a 3-storey presentation, and based on survey levels, we have calculated that the building's at 8.9 to 9.2 metres, 3 to 700mm over the 8.5 height limit. And there's a ceiling height limit on these controls up to 8 metres. We calculated it's actually 290 to 5. There is no step or transition with the natural slope north to south, resulting in a dominant and disproportionate mass. Height justification by the applicant and construction certificate concerns is point number 4 and the last. The applicant says the extra 1.1 metre height is required for Sydney water clearance and National Construction Code compliance. However, construction certificate has already been issued and construction has commenced. The current architect, an accredited design practitioner with the New South Wales Building Commissions, confirms the approved plans can be built to the original reduced RLs while meeting all NCC and structural requirements. Condition 29 requires Sydney water approval before CC can be issued. Therefore, Sydney water approval exists, meaning the original RLs are already complied with. And I will wrap it up. It does not exist. If it does not exist, meaning the CC may have been issued contrary to mandatory conditions. Either scenario undermines the credibility of the applicant's height justification, suggesting the increase instead serves to improve view lines and reduce construction costs at the expense of rear properties. I request the panel, and I respectfully ask the panel to defer this matter until 4 points are addressed. Proper height poles are installed. View sharing and bulk impacts are reassessed using accurate site-verified data. Point number 3, height compliance, including the appropriateness of a 1.1 metre height increase, is reconsidered. And point number 4, evidence of Sydney water compliance with condition 29 of the original consent. The change is not minor. It significantly affects the amenity, outlook and views of Cook Terrace residents. And I thank you for your time and consideration on behalf of all the owners of 28, 30 and 32 Cook Terrace, Monavar. Thank you.
Other panel members, do you have any questions or queries? I have one request, Mark. It would seem you have been reading from something that you have prepared. I've not seen that submitted to us in writing, and I wonder if that's a possibility that you could do when it's convenient.
Yes, I can do that. I just did that to keep it within 3 minutes.
No, that's not a problem. But I mean, there is a significant amount of information that you have communicated.
Thank you. I can forward that to.
I think it may be helpful for the panel if you could forward that to us so that we have a copy of it in Word form.
Yeah,
Other panel members, do you have any questions of Mark or any further points for clarification?
No, not from me. Thanks.
Sue or Sue?
Not from me. No, thank you. Thank you, Mark.
Mark, thank you. When we will look forward to that, the materials that you send, and this matter, as I've indicated earlier, will be submitted and considered in the later meeting this afternoon.
Thank you very much, panel members.
Thank you for your time. The other person that I have, or there's, I think, a family, Samara, Darrell, and Glynis Hannam. Are they present?
Yes. Hello. Yes. Hi, Samara here. Thank you.
Samara, thank you. I'm sorry, I was just not sure which one of you was going to be, or whether there are several of you that wish to address the panel.
That's all right. It's myself and my parents, Darrell and Glynis.
Right, thank you. So you'll speak on behalf of them, and
yes.
If you would, for 3 minutes, and then there'll be that buzzer sound that makes you aware that you've got a minute left.
Certainly. Okay, thank you very much. Firstly, we are in total agreement with what Mark Weissman has said today and previous submissions. The following are specifically our concerns, and we have mentioned these in previous submissions as well. Building height, the original planning assessment report acknowledged view loss and unreasonable bulk caused by the building design and required a 700mm height reduction. In the modified DA, the new developer proposed to reclaim this 700-metre reduction and add a further 400mm, bringing the total increase in height to 1.1. Council has labelled this impact as minor in the current report. This seems inconsistent with the original findings, especially the increase in height and when viewed from our backyard. This is a major increase in height directly affecting our district view loss. Furthermore, as Mark said, height poles have not been installed to accurately assess the impact of this height increase on ours and neighbouring properties. There is also no official letter or documentation from Sydney Water to support the need to increase the building height, and the sewer pipe was not an issue in the original approved DA, as Mark stated as well. We also wanted to note the setback was originally on the original DA at 11,720mm. This was retained for level 1. However, the ground floor has been moved closer to the southeast boundary line. This further impacts our privacy now that the bedroom is closer to our boundary line and living area and bedroom. There is no new measurement on the plan for this, and we have requested, but we haven't seen any adjustment in the plans. The terrace space has significantly increased as well from the original approved DA, and the addition of the spa increases noise and negatively impacts our privacy. We'd also like to note the windows and the significant changes from the original DA. Units 5 and 6, the original DA includes louvers on unit 5 and 6, which have not been included in the modified plans. They were removed. It also shows that the sliding doors are now wider with the removal of those louvers. Units 7 and 8, bedroom 1, original approved DA showed a fixed window. Modified plans 1 and 2 show a much larger floor-to-ceiling multi-leaf external slider with a faux balcony. This could be used as a viewing platform and would significantly impact on our privacy and those of others on Cook Terrace. This faux balcony we request be removed and returned to a fixed window with privacy louvers or other privacy options included. The master bedroom for units 7 and 8, the windows are much larger, now floor to ceiling, compared to the original DA. Again, impact our privacy.
One more. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. The addition of a window double hung suite, which is for the walk-in wardrobe, was not in the original approved DA plans as well. And in bedroom 1, the windows are much larger than the original DA, further impacting on our privacy. The last point we'd like to mention is landscaping. In the plans, it shows that there is a Sydney red gum or a smooth-barked apple tree with a height of 12 metres and a spread of 9. This, according to my research, is incorrect. The Australian National Botanic Gardens state that the tree will grow between 15 and 25 metres. We wish for that tree to be changed, possibly to a smaller tree. These are major issues for us. We ask that you reconsider this modification today, recommending further thorough assessment to align with the planning principles and is considerate of ours and our neighbours' amenities. Thank you.
Thank you. Do panel members have any questions or seek further clarification from Samara?
No, not from me. Thank you.
No, I don't.
Not for me either. Thank you, Samara.
Thank
Samara,
you.
thank you. Thank you for your comments and your submission today. I believe the applicant has requested to address the panel. There are a number of people, I'm not sure who is present and who would represent them, and of those who would wish to speak. So, Julie Horder, is Julie present?
Yes, I'm present. Thank you, Chair. I will just, yes, we have the architect here and the applicant, and we're available to speak, all of us, if really to answer any questions. I'll sort of take the lead position if that's okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for your time this afternoon. We've obviously had the chance to read through Council's very detailed assessment report, and we thank Council for such a detailed assessment report. The applicant has worked very closely with Council during this assessment of the modification and has consequently put in amended plans which address both the design panel comments and neighbour submissions, and hence there's been a few iterations along the way. So we feel that we have addressed the submissions and concerns that were raised originally from the architectural design panel meeting. In terms of what we're modifying today, obviously it's very detailed in the assessment report. We remain compliant with the development standard for height under the seniors housing SEP and the Pittwater LEP. I think that's sort of a key matter. The increase in height was, as indicated, primarily due to Sydney Water issues, but also to do with meeting service requirements. The applicant has worked with Sydney Water for the last 16 months to get sort of approval, have actually lowered that those Sydney Water services, but it's as low as it can go, and consequently still need to raise the building up. If there's any questions around that particular subject, the applicant's here to answer those. And then obviously there's the service requirements as well, and slab and structural requirements that were sort of obviously part of the detailed design that they're now at. That's what's occurred, hence that modification. But really, I wanted to just sort of be available for answering questions that might come up from the panel and a result of any verbal submissions made here today.
Julie, so your colleagues, is Marcus available, or Andreas, or Jessica? Which one? Or any?
So Andres is the architect and Jess is here. She's the applicant.
Do they wish to address the panel?
I think only if there's particular questions to clarify any matters that the panel might have today, but not to sort of make a verbal submission as such.
Thank you. I guess the question that I have is, you heard the comments from the two resident objectors. Do you have any observations to make about their comments, please?
Yeah, so in terms of some of the view loss queries, this was an issue that came up quite some months ago, and the applicant made representations to 28 to if they could come in and have a look at the site and their site and what the concerns with privacy, with the view impacts were, and I believe council requested access as well, which was it's denied both from the applicant's perspective and council's perspective. So it's certainly something that we did try and address. We also looked at doing as much diagrams as we can to examine it. We looked at the previous submission that council did to the planning panel, so those previous photos, and we felt that this increase didn't create any view impact issues, and we agree with council's submission that if there is any view impact loss, it's very minor. So we did, yes, definitely try and address that in quite some detail, but really without having access to 28 and seeing exactly where those views come from, relying on those old photos, that's really the best we could do to address those particular concerns.
Yes, panel members, any further questions?
No, not from me, thank you.
Yes.
Not for me, no.
And nor for me, thank you.
And Julie, none of your colleagues further would like to address the panel or make any observations?
Just to quickly clarify one point regarding Sydney Water.
Sorry,
the approval.
who is this? Sorry,
my name is Jessica Deuce. I'm the applicant.
Thanks, Jessica. I'm sorry you didn't quite come up, but now you've come up. Thank you.
Sorry, jumped in too quick. I just wanted to clarify regarding the Sydney Water approval that is in place. It's essentially an approval for an exclusion zone. So where the sewer exists within our front boundary, there's an exclusion zone of about 3 or 4 metres that Sydney Water has essentially said you cannot do any works within this zone. However, they do allow, subject to the certifier's approval, which we obtained, that we are allowed to do some bulk excavation up to this exclusion zone. Obviously, the exclusion zone is where the pipe from Sydney Water exists, so we can't get anywhere near that pipe until we are able to successfully drop that and divert that, which at the moment we've got in principle agreement from Sydney Water, which is based on the 455 RLs, but obviously we can't obtain that without the 455 actually progressing through. So it's still not resolved or formally approved by Sydney Water. It's just in principle approval based on a proposed design as per the 455, and outside of that, an exclusion zone for bulk excavation works outside of 3 metres within the site, the front boundary of the site.
Thanks, Jessica. Panel, any questions of Jessica?
No, thank you.
So, Julie, just one final request. I mean, you've obviously read the report. Are there any things you further would like to comment on relating to some of the conditions that are being sought or some of the observations in the report that we have been given?
Oh, yes, thank you for bringing that up. We put in an additional letter just in terms of clarifying the requirements of condition 26, which is the access to bus stops. I have seen council officer has prepared a memo to the panel today, which agrees with those changes. So there was a bit of an overlap in some of the conditions, and there was just inconsistencies with what the council's traffic engineer had agreed to in terms of access. So that was it was really just a clarifying point to make sure that condition 26 was as per the agreements, and a minor change to the fireplace conditions. So just clarification of details which will be required before any CC is issued if fireplaces are proposed. So there was just those 2 minor things, but otherwise, as I said, it's a very comprehensive assessment report by council officers, and I don't have any sort of questions or further comments.
So sorry, the fireplaces you're suggesting to be deleted?
So council's health officer had some concerns that there was no details. So we've just requested that a condition be put forward that those details are required to be submitted. So I think it's specifications of fireplaces and the flue, if they are to be proposed. So there was some, I think, some notations, very minor notations on the plan. So it just kind of clarifies that if they are proposed, these are the design requirements, details rather, that need to be submitted, and that needs to be, I think the proposed wording is either by the certifier or by council prior to any CC being issued.
Sorry, and if you could just clarify the bus stop reference.
Yes, so following the approval of the development application, the bus on the southern side of the bus stop on the southern side of Coronation Street was removed by Transport for New South Wales. So council just had a query about if that's removed, what are the implications for access in terms of compliance with services and facilities under the Seniors Housing SEP. So we provided some additional details for the footpath on the northern side of Coronation Street, and that it could access the existing bus stop and also the relocated bus stop, which is on the corner of Melbourne Avenue and Coronation Street. So there was a further access, or pretty much like a survey access report that shows the gradients being complied with, subject to a condition regarding some pram ramps being reconstructed to have those compliant gradients. So it's quite detailed. It was already a detailed condition, and the council have just put some additional requirements in there regarding the pram ramps.
Thank you. And just for further clarification, I believe the understanding is that the permissible height limit is 8.5 metres on the side.
It's so under the housing SEP, the previous housing, the seniors housing SEP, it's 8 metres to the underside of the ceiling. That's under the SEP, and under the LEP, Pittwater LEP, it's 8.5.
And so the maximum height that you're seeking with the proposal?
So 7.49 as calculated in accordance with the SEP, and 8.4 if calculated in accordance with the LEP. So they're different, just to confuse matters, they're different definitions for building height under those two instruments.
So the SEPP requirements are something that are from the state, not from the council?
That's right, they're from the state, yes.
And it's relatively a new way that is being, I guess, suggested from the state government, an increasing density in the state, which may or may not have consequences with existing planning controls?
It's actually the old seniors housing SEP, which is now it's pretty much what I would say is redundant, but it's called back up for this modification because there's a savings provision in there. So it was always a bit of a confusing building height development standard because it was different to every other development standard in terms of how it was defined. So that's hence why we're sort of going back one step to that X, but it's a state that definition and that standard building height is a state government control, state government definition.
Thank you. And then one final question or comment. I believe there are changes to the facade material palette that you've submitted for this application, which is a modification of the existing approval. So could you give us a brief indication of what the changes are and how they may be relevant?
I might just hand that over to the architect to take you through briefly, just to describe those changes. He's probably best to go through those. Mm-hmm. Andreas, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Hi, everyone. I'm Andres, team member of our Canary Architects. Related to the materiality on the facade, as we have been modifying the facade following the feedback received from council for this RFI, with playing a bit with the verticality of the building. And so we play a bit with the facade, creating some angles, so the facade can have different, it's not all aligned, so they have different depths. And in one of these we incorporate bricks, but it's not a new brick. It was a brick that already was in part of the front facade. So it's just a small section where we play with the side facades that we incorporate the bricks as in the front facade.
And this is because, why have you made these changes?
Is because we think that if we create an area in vertical with a different material, it also helps to enhance not only the creation of the angles with the side facade, if not having a vertical material enhance this verticality seek by council.
I might also add, Jess here, the applicant, I might just quickly add as well, the original DA had a lot of varying elements within the facade design. So there was a number of different materials proposed, and the revised proposal sort of synergizes the material palette and the color palette, which we feel is better suited to the area. It's more of a coastal facade design. As Andreas mentioned, we incorporate timber battens, we incorporate a light coastal brick and a light coloured render, as well as planter boxes and more significant greenery to the front facade, and of course some articulation to the side boundaries. We feel it's more clearly read from the street, and we think it's easier on the eyes in terms of it sitting within the existing and surrounding landscape of the area, particularly given it presents as a two-storey building from the front as well.
Thank you. I have one other question which relates to car parking. I understand that previously there were 16 cars that were proposed, and now there is a different number. And I'm not sure, but I read from the plans, there is no visitor parking or no car wash space. So could you comment on that, please?
Yeah, so originally there was 16 car spaces. We've reduced this to 13. Under the seniors housing SEP, only 12 were required. So we're still exceed the minimum requirement. Also under the housing SEP, there's no requirement for visitor parking or car wash. So yes, they have reduced the numbers, but still compliant.
I'll also add.
Sorry. I hear the word compliant, Julie. I guess the notion of visitor car parking is something that may or may not be seen to be desirable in a car wash equally for a development of this time.
I think, sorry, Jess, I might get you to jump in case I'm about to double up on what you're saying.
No, I was just going to make a quick note off the back of what you said earlier, Julie, was just that the original DA also didn't have a provision for visitor parking. So we maintained the original assumption of the DA.
And there's some works that as well as those pram ramps and things, there's also some parking requirements in Coronation Street to provide some additional parking as well. I think, is it Jess, top of my head?
Yeah, that's right. There's not, yeah. That's right, Julie. So 2 additional parallel, I think, and then 9 45-degree angle parking as well as there's significant parking on Coronation Street as well.
But not within the building envelope itself.
That's right, as per the approved DA.
Right. Okay. Panel, any other comments or questions, please?
No, thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for the presentations. As I indicated, this matter will be referred to the meeting that commences as later this afternoon, and the determination by the panel will be recorded and be available on the council's website within 24 to maybe 48 hours. So thank you again for your attention and attendance today.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Okay.
Excellent.
So I'll move on now to the next item, which is item 4.2. And 4.2 is 12, and I think it's Nailon Place, Mona Vale, which is a multi-dwelling housing project. And for that, I'm just checking. We have several objectors, Tracy Lee and Tanya Ma. I'm not sure if either or both of them are present.
I'm present.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure who you are.
I'm Tracy Lee.
Tracy, thank you. I'm sorry, I couldn't see you on the
That's
screen.
okay, no worries at all. And I'm here as well. It's Tanya Ma here.
So you're both here, which is fine. Just give me 1 second. So Tracy, if you'd like to address the panel. As I've mentioned before, it's 3 minutes plus a warning and a minute to sum up. And if you need a moment or two more, fine. But if you could address the panel, that would be good. Thank you.
Thank you. Like, I just wanted to say thank you, councillors and panel members. My name is Tracy Lee, and I'm here today because, like many of my neighbours, we feel that we must fight for the protection of our street and our community. My husband and I strongly object to the development of number 12 Naylon Place. This is not about opposing housing. It's about preventing inappropriate, non-compliant development that harms our neighbourhood. These are non-appropriate dwellings. What we are seeing from the developer is exploiting housing reforms for profit at the expense of our quiet street, local safety and infrastructure. I want to emphasise that none of the concerns that I'm raising today are minor or speculative. They go to the heart of planning integrity, neighbourhood amenity and our community safety. The proposal that is being put forward fails on setbacks, it fails on parking, it fails on solar access, it fails on privacy, and it fails to demonstrate that our ageing infrastructure can cope. At every turn, the report from the council dismisses these very real impacts with assumptions, interpretations and conditions, rather than with evidence. And throughout this process, the voices of our residents have been acknowledged, but they haven't been meaningfully considered. We are not seeking special treatment in this meeting. We are asking for the same protections and fair application that the Pittwater DCP that every resident is entitled to. We are asking that the housing SEPP be applied in a way that respects its intent, not exploited as a loophole. Above all of this, we are asking that this panel uphold your responsibility under section 4.15 to consider the real world impacts on our street with regard to safety, amity and infrastructure. If this development is approved in its current form, the consequences for our street will be immediate and irreversible. But you have the ability today to prevent this outcome by refusing the proposal. On behalf of myself and the residents of Naylon Place and Mona Street, who have fought tirelessly over months because we felt no one would protect our neighbourhood, I respectfully ask the panel to reject this development. I wanted to touch on the setbacks. Development fails to meet the Pittwater 21 DCP C 7.2 setbacks requirements. The ground floor decks are proposed at 1.8 metres, although half of the required 3.75 metres. The report claims that this is acceptable because it meets objectives, but objectives cannot override the clear numerical standards. These controls exist and prevent overdevelopment, protect privacy and maintain neighbourhood character. Approving this variation sets a dangerous precedent and undermines our planning integrity. The parking is a major concern for us. The SEPP require a minimum of 0.5 spaces per dwelling, and they override our DCP requirement, which is 1.5 spaces per 3-bedroom dwelling, and it ignores our local conditions. Naylon Place already experiences severe parking shortages, driveway routines. Our driveways are routinely blocked because of drop off and pick up. There's no available parking during our school hours. The school across the road has 1,000 plus students. There's severe concerns with regards to emergency access. Relying on on-street parking does not exist and is unsafe and unacceptable, and the council has a legal duty under section 4.15 to consider the real world impacts, not just statutory minimums. I want to ask the panel and the developer, where are these heavy duties people going to park when they do this development, and where are these residents going to park? There's serious concerns around solar access. The shadow diagrams show significant...
Just a few more moments, if you would.
Yeah, if I can.
Sure.
There's serious implications with regards to the solar access. The report says that it's maintained between 12 and 3, but the DCP requires sunlight between 9 and 3, which has been ignored, and it is an amity for us at 11 Naylon Place because the bulk and the size of the development ignores that. We've got serious concerns about privacy with regards to relying on the landscape to solve the problem, and it's inadequate. And the infrastructure, the council cannot guarantee that our street can cope with this development. So I just really ask that this proposal, it fails on setbacks, parking, solar access, privacy and infrastructure. And I genuinely ask you to please reject this development in its current form.
Tracy, thank you very much. Panel, do you have any questions of Tracy?
No, not from me, thank you.
No, not for me, but thank you very much, Tracy, for your submission.
Thank you.
Tracy, thank you. And your colleague, Tanya?
Yep.
Tanya, you've
Yes,
heard
hi.
before. I repeat myself, we're saying 3 minutes plus a minute or two to sum up, if you would, please.
That's okay. I would like to start by saying that we fully support the statement made by Tracy Lee today. Tracy and her husband Rob have raised genuine issues that need to be addressed, and I believe their concerns reflect the sentiments of the majority of long-term residents of Naylon Place. We have lived in Naylon Place for 28 years and have experienced firsthand the ongoing challenges caused by parking. What concerns us most is that the proposed development will turn an already difficult situation into something unmanageable. Currently, during school hours, there is space for only 7 cars to park on the road, and even then only for a maximum of 2 hours. The new driveways proposed as part of this development will remove several of those spots, spaces we simply cannot afford to lose. To suggest that the future residents rely on on-street parking ignores the simple reality there is none, especially during school hours. I would also like to highlight how heavily our street is used by school parents and the senior students who drive. Every morning and afternoon, Naylon Place effectively becomes a turning bay for dozens of cars. Parents and students drive in, turn around in our driveways, idle in the cul-de-sac and line the curb waiting for their kids. This happens twice a day, every day, leaving the street congested, noisy and often unsafe. It's not just a parking issue, it's the constant flow of vehicles using our once quiet cul-de-sac as a part of the school traffic system. In addition to parking and traffic pressures, our street has a long history of water infrastructure problems. Sydney Water is constantly working in Mona Street to repair or attempt to repair old water pipes. These ongoing issues highlight that the existing infrastructure is already under strain, and adding more dwellings without proper independent assessment risks exacerbating these problems. All we're asking is that the everyday experiences of long-term residents be taken seriously before a decision is made that cannot be undone. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Tanya. Panel, any questions?
No, thanks.
No, but thank you again, Tanya. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tanya and Tracy, thank you both for your submissions. I guess one of the challenges that we face is, as you've identified, with the state government and the new housing SEP, and the fact that this site is within 800 metres of what's been labelled as the centre of Mona Vale, and therefore there are new planning controls or conditions which are being forced onto this area. So it's a very interesting exercise, and it's one which I personally think is potentially a very significant precedent for how this will happen and how many more there will be as a result of what is happening with the state government planning controls and initiatives that are being placed not just in Mona Vale, but beyond, also other parts of the Northern Beaches area and generally around the state. And so for the panel, it's going to be, I think, a very interesting exercise to see how we can effectively respond and constructively assist in this process to get the best answers and best outcomes that are possible.
Yep. Can I just respond to that, Ross, and just say I know that you guys have local control, and then we've got SEP, which you guys have to be. We have real world problems in our street, and I really plead with you and the councillors and the panel to really assess that. We've got a school with 1,000+ students across the road. We have real world problems in our street, and this is really going to make a big impact on not only our amenity, our privacy, but the street. So I really plead with you to please look through at the amount of objections that were put forward, and please take that into consideration.
Thank you. We have 3 speakers wishing to address the panel from the applicant, Greg Boston, Joel Shanahan, and William Fleming. I'm not sure if you all wish to address the panel or in which order you'd like to, or who'd like to start.
Yeah, no, thank you, Mr. Chair. Greg Boston, BBF Town Planners. The applicant is also here, Joel Shanahan, simply to answer any questions that might arise that I'm unable to respond to, and I don't believe William Fleming will be speaking today.
So, Mr. Boston, do you have any comments or responses to what you've heard from the 2 residents about the issues they've raised?
Yes, look, I do, and thanks for the opportunity to respond. At the start, I'd say that we've read the report. It's very obviously thorough and robust. There's a number of conditions proposed, and we raised no objections to the conditions as drafted. As you're aware, this is an LMR application pursuant to Chapter 6 of the Housing SEP. The Housing SEP provides a number of discretionary standards, non-discretionary standards going towards height, FSR, and also tree canopy guidelines in relation to deep soil. As the report indicates, the application proposes 2-storey buildings with a maximum height of 8.2 metres, whereas the non-discretionary standard is 9.5 metres, and an FSR of 0.64 to 1 in circumstances where the non-discretionary standard is 0.7 to 1. What the numerics effectively outline is the fact that we did have some pre-DA discussions with council prior to lodging the application. At the time of lodgement, the proposal was fully compliant with the DCP provisions as they relate to setbacks and certainly envelope. And it was post-submission of the application that some amendments were made to the DCP to bring in more onerous side boundary setback controls. It's those more onerous setback controls that some variations are sought, noting that significant portions of the development are fully compliant with the side boundary setback provisions as sort of outlined in the report. It's important to note that on page 172 and 173 of the agenda, some elevational diagrams there, which also indicate the building envelope requirement of the DCP, which is up 4.2 metres at the boundary and in 45 degrees. And what you'll note there is that the development sits comfortably within that side boundary envelope control. So when we ask the panel to give consideration to the suite of side boundary setback controls, being the envelope and then the numeric, in forming an opinion in relation to the relatively minor variations proposed. Both our submission and council's report goes to the objectives of the setback provisions and forms a view that in relation to privacy and solar access that the proposal is acceptable. And we ask the panel to endorse the staff assessment report in that regard. If I can just address the other issues raised by the neighbours, obviously car parking, again, a non-discretionary development standard. 1 car parking space is provided per dwelling. There's obviously an opportunity for some informal parking in the driveway alignment as well. In relation to landscaped area, there's a minor 1.4% variation to council's 50% landscaped area provision, but certainly compliance with the tree canopy guide, which is called up in relation to Chapter 6 of the Housing SEP. So again, that minor variation we say is acceptable, with the FSR proposed being well below the non-discretionary standard and the building height being well below the non-discretionary standard, reflecting a response to the sensitivities of the site identified by council and also the neighbours in relation to providing contextually appropriate heights and setbacks to the boundary. Apart from that, I'm happy to answer any questions that the panel might have.
Panel, any further questions, or do any other of your team wish to address the panel?
I have a question, Greg. You've mentioned the car spaces, garages for one car, and then car spots on the driveways. But what happens to the potentially 3 spots you're taking off the street? 3, maybe 4, because of the double driveway and a single driveway.
Yeah, I've got
We've
the same
gone from
concerns, Greg.
7 spots during school hours to now potentially 4, maybe 3, maybe 5. I don't know.
Yeah, look, the response to that is that the original plans that were sort of put to council certainly had individual driveways to each of the dwellings. And simply by nature of having 3 attached dwellings, it's very difficult to consolidate three garage or driveways associated with garages down to one crossing. So what we've done is we've acknowledged the location of existing street trees and consolidated the driveways from 3 down to 2. And there really isn't any reasonable opportunity to further consolidate the driveways. So if you accept the proposition that 3 attached dwellings are permissible on this site pursuant to the LMR, then what we say and what is supported by council is that the driveway configuration as proposed in the manner sought reduces the loss of on-street parking, and certainly there's an additional space, or there's still a space retained between the 2 crossing alignments. Obviously, there's no crossing proposed to Mona Street. So yeah, so look, we've done our best to minimise the impacts, and that's something that is supported by council and certainly the SEP.
So, Greg, I noticed on the drawings the car parking is in a garage for 1 car per dwelling. One of the sites does have a dimension, I think it's 5.4 metres in front of the garage door, which would be potentially enough for tandem parking. The other 2 don't have it. They have 4.5 metres. I think it's the number. I guess my question is, looking at the plans, is it possible that you could marginally reconfigure the ground floor of those 2 buildings so that there is tandem parking, so that the cars don't spill out over the driveways and over the footpath and onto the road? I believe that it is possible, but I guess it's something which you could indicate you don't have to do because you don't need to, supposedly because of compliance, but you've heard from the residents and the community concerns. Is it possible that you could effectively provide 2 off-street tandem parking spaces in front of those 2 garages?
Look, ultimately, it's probably a question for the architect. But look, what I do know is that if you look at the ground floor plans, there's been a lot of tension placed on the setbacks to what would be the southern boundary or the boundary directly behind the garages there, to provide a variable setback between, I think it's 3 and 4.6 metres. Just in response to that, to council's side boundary setback control. That has sort of pushed the lift back towards the garage, and also provides the minimum dimension in terms of those rear deck and private open space areas. If council and or the panel were of a mind to relax the setback at ground floor level to that southern boundary, then there may well be an opportunity to slide the lift cores further to the south and provide some additional depth in relation to the garage. But certainly there's no ability to move the front facade of the building back any further. So
that's not the question I was asking. It is purely the garage. It's not the other parts of the building fronting onto Nailon Street. It's purely one of the garages is set back. And if you look, we've looked at the plans. The one furthest from Mona is set back 5.4, the other two are not. So I guess the question is it possible? And secondly, more importantly, would it be desirable?
Luke, we've also got the project architect here as well.
Well, I guess we would be very interested to see or hear of what level of neighbourliness is possible in order to address one of the major concerns, which appears to be traffic management and safety and parking and pedestrians. I mean, it's a very simple exercise. It does not mean other than moving the garage back to comply or to relate to the other one that does, without changing the rest of the envelope. We're not here to replan the whole building, but it's a very fundamental principle of having tandem parking almost achievable with very minor changes to the internal planning to achieve it, and therefore addressing one, if not some, of the problems that the community and the residents have expressed very succinctly. I mean, we do have the problems of this being an LMR project. We do have the fact that it's within 800 metres of the centre of Mona Vale, and we're trying to find things that will ameliorate some of the problems that have perhaps been caused by that planning instrument as opposed to the council's planning instrument.
Plus, can I just also add, you haven't actually answered that by adding another 2 driveways, or 1 double and 1 single, you're taking away 2, maybe 3 spots, parking spaces in the street.
And
so
just
I know
to add to that, yeah, you're right, Tanya. And currently there's 3 lots of 3-bedroom apartments that are being put in. 3-bedroom apartments have 2 cars. I don't know anyone that can argue that. Where are they going to park? I just want to ask the developer, where are you going to park when you've got one parking space, and then you've got 2 tandems that are illegal? Where are they going to park? There's no parking on our street.
Sorry, guys. Giles, I'm the applicant here. Just in terms of the driveway widths, there's an existing sort of double width driveway, which is currently under the current use. So it is really a material change of one, I think it's a 3-metre width additional car driveway towards the corner of Naylon and Mona Street. Luke, can you talk to, I guess, tandem requirements in terms of the lengths that we might be looking for to pick up an extra sort of tandem space on lots 2 and 3?
The current parking isn't legal. Just to put it bluntly, and what Ross has put forward, it's not legal. So we just need you to answer how you're gonna meet that.
With respect, Mr. Chair,
I
don't know whether we're answering questions from the floor or from the panel at the moment.
Understand.
Yeah, but look, we are certainly prepared to respond to any concerns that the panel has in relation to car parking.
Yes.
And Luke Travato, the project architect, is here, as I said, to hopefully provide you with a quick response into whether it is possible. So, Luke.
Yeah, good afternoon. I have been listening in off and on. So, and I've just heard the comments regarding the car parking. The short answer is the setbacks that we've got at the moment are a response to council's requirements to set the building back and step it towards 11-day lawn. So the end townhouse is designed with the layout slightly different to the others to try and step that setback further back. A tandem car spots can be achieved, I guess, but it would require the setbacks to change the rear setback to the southern boundary to change to accommodate that, to make that work. As Greg was saying before, the lift arrangement and the other areas would have to be amended, and that would have impacts on the upper floors and other things as well. So it's not just simply pushing it back, only the garage. The lifts change. That means the lift upstairs change. It has knock-on effects to the rest of it. So it's not just a simple change of pushing that garage back and getting more space in front of it. Like anything, we can design this forever, but this is a pure response to dealing with the assessing officer and the process. But yeah, the actual material design change would involve a little bit more than just moving the garage back, because it has knock-on effects to the upper.
Thank you very much for your comment. Thank you. Are there any further questions from the panel?
I just had a question regarding the decks. Yes. And how close they are to that boundary. I think in particular the boundary to number 9. So yes, I know I am a member of the panel, so I'm asking that question. I don't know whether or not the architect or the planner wanted to respond to that. In terms of their size and likely impacts, and can anything be done to reduce potential overlooking from those decks?
In response to that, the privacy from those decks hasn't been raised before. However, we've certainly, through the landscape plan, provided some softening along that boundary, which will also assist in reducing direct overlooking. But this sort of townhouse style development obviously places the living area or the primary living areas at ground floor, and to that extent, we don't anticipate the level of overlooking to be such that it would be perceived as inappropriate. However, if the panel was of a mind to require additional privacy attenuation to those decks, we'd be happy to have a look at it. But in terms of the raw setbacks from those decking elements, I think at its closest point, it's about 1.8 metres, and then increases for townhouse 1, and then townhouse 2 and 3 are set back further than that in relation to those decking elements.
All right, thank you very much, and thank you for the presentations. The panel will consider this later, and as indicated, the determination by the panel will be available on the council's website within 48 hours. So thank you again for the attendance.
May I just add one point just on the matter that is I guess the contentious point of the traffic and parking. I guess that's the assumption of a tandem car spot there is 2 full length large cars. It's not likely this is a downsizing product to assume 2 large vehicles of 5 metre plus lengths is overs on this. A small SUV compact units, they're between 4 and 4.5 metres, whereas the smaller setback on lots 2 and 3 are 4.4 metres as it is. So I think it could be seen that there is tandem parking available there for a regular size car and a compact car.
Joel, thank you very much for your comments. I guess we can all look at drawings and make our own determination of whether that's acceptable or not acceptable and the consequences that will result. So thank you, Joel, and thank you for the rest of the presentations.
Thank you for your time, Ross, and for the panel. We really appreciate you listening to our objections.
No, that's fine. I mean, as I indicated, this is something which is going to come up, I guess, with not just the Northern Beaches, but other panels with the new housing requirements, with some of the designated changes from the state government. So not always an easy way to address and come to terms with some of the decisions that are made by others.
But we appreciate you listening to us and actually understanding the real world problems that we have. And it's not just about SEP, it's about what you guys can do as local government to help us.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
And I'll move now on to the next item. And the next item is 4.3. Just give me one moment and I'll get myself a little organised. 4.3 is 102 Prince Charles's Road, French's Forest. I have no people wishing to address the panel as objectors or as applicants. The recommendation is for approval for a dual occupancy. And this again is something which was considered under clause 166 of the Housing SEP. So if there are no presentations, is there any comments or any observations any panel members wish to make on this item?
No, not from me, thanks.
Not from me either. Thank you.
All right.
No comment on that.
Interesting enough, this has got parking which has got one covered space and one tandem space. Item 4.4 is 38 Arnott Crescent, Warriewood. There are no objectors and the applicant wishes to address the panel. So I have Vaughan Milligan nominated.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to the panel members.
1 second, Vaughan, while I just get myself a little organised.
Good.
Paperwork sometimes is a bit of a challenge. So, Vaughan, there's been significant amounts of information submitted further on this particular application. The panel did discuss it earlier today and requested further information on it. But if you would like to address the panel to start with, and then we may have some questions of you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will just clarify, I'm not actually the applicant for this proposal. I'm a town planner. I'm assisting the owners, and Mr. Joel Surtees is with us as one of the property owners, and we're both available for any questions the panel may have. Yes, you're correct. We received Council's report on Thursday. First of all, obviously, it's a very comprehensive and thorough assessment from Council's external consultant. There were a range of conditions recommended within the determination, with the recommendation to you. First up, it's recommending approval, and we certainly hope that the panel endorse that fundamental recommendation. We did provide some information to you just to address some of the conditions and how we saw they would work in terms of the design and some of the challenges of the conditions. We do note the late from our late correspondence, there was a supplementary memo from the consultant to the panel today, which I think has resolved one of the conditions, condition 1. Conditions 1 and 2 of the recommendation were seeking some lowering and raising of floor levels of the secondary dwelling. We highlighted where we saw that was problematic and that we felt imposing both conditions would make the garage not workable, and some safety concerns with raising the garage floor level. And this may be borne out in the questions you may pose later, but we note that the external consultant has agreed that the floor level of the garage should remain as proposed at 10.97. He's suggesting a lowering of the secondary dwelling floor level to address a perception of bulk and scale, if there is one from the street. In response to that, we'd like to keep the floor level as it is, primarily for the reason my client is a tradesman. He has a work truck as well as a family vehicle. It's a young family, 3 kids. So they have a vehicle that they need to house within the garage. And also his neighbours have made comment about the vehicles being on the street, his work truck. So as designed, he's comfortable that he'd be able to get both his work truck and the family vehicle into the garage. We believe with changes that have been made to the application, the massing and the height of the secondary dwelling is appropriate in that we believe the neighbouring property still will maintain significant views to the distant. I mean, the views that are available to the property are distant district views, and with the levels as proposed, we think the neighbours will see comfortably over the secondary dwelling without any further lowering. So we'd ask that condition 2 not be imposed by the panel, for the reason being we don't believe there is a problem with the design as it stands, so we're rectifying something at the expense of the ultimate best outcome for the function of the garage. We'd like to maintain it as it is proposed. Condition 3 is again seeking some modification to the design in terms of lowering of the springing line of the secondary dwelling. It's currently proposed at 2.4 metres. and the recommendation before you is for a reduction to 2.2 metres. It's a compliance secondary dwelling in terms of it adheres to the 60 square metre maximum under council's control. And being small spaces, we think the rake ceilings in those areas, as it is petitioned internally, will be enhanced through the higher springing height. So again, that's something that we'd ask the panel to be mindful of the recommendation. I'll be very quick, Mr. Chair. Yep. I'll just quickly run through the other conditions, because condition 4 was in relation to the water tank, which we believe is generally resolved. We've provided you with some additional landscaping. Condition 5 of that portion is to delete a splashback window to a kitchen. We've suggested that no treatment of the window is needed, because we've given you some information to show views out of the kitchen would be fundamentally into the landscaping and the boundary fence. We've suggested, if the panel are minded for us to accept the concern raised by the external consultant, our client's a fixed window regardless. They'd be happy for that to be treated with a film or to be opaque glazed, if that resolves your concern. And possibly one of the major concerns for our clients is the width of the driveway crossing. We would love to have given you more comprehensive engineering information. I think if the panel have been down the street, you would have noted that it's not a particularly wide road. If it assists in your deliberations this afternoon, the Google Street View from this property looking east has 2 cars sitting in front of the neighbouring property. I think it graphically shows what my clients are facing, that if someone's parked on both sides of the road close to their driveway, it's very difficult, challenging to turn into their driveway because of the on-street parking. So the 4 metre width just gives that extra minor 500 millimetres either side of the driveway council suggesting, just to allow more functional turning, safer turning, being able to get out of the property and have better sight vision to the street. Otherwise, panel, we're here for any questions. As you've indicated, preempted, you may have some queries, and both myself and Mr. Surtees are here for anything the panel may raise.
So I guess the levels have become somewhat difficult to understand, because there have been various iterations, and some of the drawings perhaps are not as legible or as understandable for some of us as others. Mm-hmm. But I guess there are a series of basic principles which would be good to confirm with you or with the applicant. Certainly. And I guess the first is, what would be the desirable opening to get into the garage to accommodate what you see as the vehicles that are going to use it? In other words, if we read the drawings correctly, the beam over the entrance is the limiting factor. So what would be the height of that beam from the ground level or entry of the garage?
I'll just quickly tell you that.
What is a desirable height? I mean, we know what perhaps would be workable, what is mandated, but that's obviously it's a critical start to understand then the subsequent working out of the heights of the proposal.
Certainly, Mr. Chair. As we've designed the proposal with the structural design from our engineer, the clear height we're seeking is 2.4 metres. With the recommended condition, it becomes 2.23 metres. So if I can sum it up to, the discussion is asking you to consider whether an additional 170 millimetres to the opening is reasonable or not reasonable. At 2.4 metres, our client's very comfortable that he can get both his work vehicle and his family vehicle in. And that would be sufficient to our mind to make the garage most functional. The minimum standard height is 2.2 metres. So at 2.23, as recommended in the report, we're talking an additional 30 millimetres only. We're asking for an additional 170 millimetres. So at 2.4 rather than the minimum 2.2, and I'll throw another number at 2.23 as is recommended to the panel. So to answer your question, sum it up, 2.4 is what we would like.
So then there is a zone which is nominally 550 as the structural zone to the slab, including the beam, for the floor level of the dwelling above the garage.
That's correct, Mr. Chair. From the floor level to the underside of the beam is 550. And then from the underside of the beam to the garage floor, as proposed and as now supported by the The consultant is 2.4, and there's recommendation that go down by another 170 millimetres.
So then the height that you would see happening from the garage floor to the floor slab of the secondary dwelling?
2.95 metres, Mr. Chair.
Okay. What we have done is to ask the consultant to prepare a diagram, and I'm not sure whether, Lauren, you can present that to us, but can I, just before we look at this diagram, do other panel members have questions, just to clarify before we start reading this? Yes, Sue.
Can I just ask the actual height of his vehicle, please?
I might defer to Mr. Surtees if he's with us today, if he has a height on his work vehicle.
Yeah, hello panel, how are you going? The height of the vehicle, it's a small, medium, rigid tip truck, and I've got 2.35 to the top of my tip back as it stands.
Right. Sue, any further questions? Yeah, no, that's very helpful. I'm sorry to being a bit drawn out and pedantic on this, but I guess we've all been looking at these numbers and trying to understand what it is, and they do become the critical resolution of this whole question. And obviously, the floor of the garage needs to be nominally at least marginally above the street level, so that the water runs out into the street if there's. So I mean, we're not trying to play designer, we're just trying to get some information, because obviously the concerns that we have had expressed to us are again about height, and all of this comes from the numbers we've been talking of. So Lauren, I'm sorry, did you manage to get Andrew on board?
Yep, Andrew's here, and I do have the diagram if you'd like me to share my screen. Yep, go ahead.
It hasn't come through.
Yep, one moment, sorry. Let me minimize that. You should be able to see my screen now. Correct?
Yep.
Yes.
Great. So there are 2 pages, so please just let me know if you would like me to scroll down to the next page.
Yeah, well, what that's showing is 2.3 metres to the underside of the beam, which may not
I'm happy
be.
to speak to this panel if you like.
Let's just, who is, Andrew, is this you?
Yes, it is.
I'm sorry, thank you. All right, Andrew, if you can speak to it, please. You've heard the discussion before this, so that's why, if you can speak to this diagram.
Yes, so this diagram was prepared to allow for a 2.3 clearance from the as proposed floor level of the garage to the underside of the beam. So that's what that drawing shows, 2.3 metres. It then, from that basis, works out what the overall RL of the ridge would be, understanding that the actual ridge height will be lowered to 17.78 from 18.08. So I think, from what I'm understanding from the discussion, from what Mr. Vaughan Milligan mentioned and the owner, they need 2.35 metre clearance from the slab level to the underside of the beam. This diagram gives you 2.3. So if you wanted to accommodate the applicant's request and approve this application, you would simply, I believe, add 100 millimetres to the 13.82 that you see on your drawing before you on the left-hand side where the cursor is. That
Sorry,
would mean
we can't see that part of the drawing.
that's okay. We might need to blow it up.
I can zoom in if you'd like. Does that
We
help?
can see.
Yeah, it's the RL on the left-hand side. Yeah.
Yes.
Just here.
Yeah.
So just to
Oh,
speak to that, yeah, we've maintained the 10.97 for Mr. Milligan's benefit and the applicant. I've just redrawn it in a larger font because it's very hard to see. So 10.97, no change. Then we have a 2.3 metre to the underside of the beam, which then you add another 550. That gave me 13.82. So At the end of the day, that's 50 millimetres short of the applicant's height of his truck, I believe. So you'd need to add 100 mils to the 13.82, which make it 13.92, which I think is what they started with anyway. And then you would simply drop the ridge and drop the ridge to accommodate that.
So it's a 50 millimetre difference, you're saying?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Well,
50 millimetres.
We've had various dimensions, and I guess I think for the panel, this diagram is helping significantly. If that number is amended from 2.3 to 2.4, and the diagram potentially accommodates all of the other recommendations, including the springing level and the rake of the roof and the structural zones. I mean, it's something which we can, as a panel, discuss later, but it would appear that from the information from the applicant and his consultants, that we may be at least
Either Ross?
Any comments from the panel?
Yes, Ross, can I just clarify a couple of things? From this morning's discussion, I understood that it was 2.27 under the beam and slab. It's now saying 2.3, the discussion we had with Andrew. Can you clarify that difference?
What we're hearing, Sue, is that to accommodate the vehicle and the way the garage used, it maybe is that we accept a nominal 2.4.
I understand.
And that to me becomes probably the critical decision that has to be made in order to then spring the rest of the dimensions.
Yeah, I understand. But I did want to clarify that because I thought it was 2.27 and now it's changed under the beam and slab to 2.3. But
Sue,
I also wanted to...
No, sorry. Can I just clarify? Sue, excuse me 1 second. The number on the drawing is 2.3. What I have heard, I believe I heard, is the applicant is seeking a clearance or a dimension of 2.4 to accommodate his vehicle.
I understand that.
Sorry.
But just two things I wanted to clarify, if I may. One was earlier the discussion with Andrew was 2.27 under the beam. But anyway, but the other thing is, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm trying to understand this, I believe that Andrew was wanting to keep the floor level of the secondary dwelling, wanted to lower it, so it'd be one step. And I understand Vaughan Milligan wants to keep that. Have I understood that correctly?
I'm happy to respond. Yes, I believe so, because 13.92 is the as submitted drawing that they want approval for. And just to clarify, Sue, I did understand what you were asking. The task that I was bequeathed with, I think that's the right word, following the meeting this morning, was to demonstrate the effect or the impact of 2.3 clearance to the underside of the beam. So that's why you're seeing the difference between the 2.27 and the 2.3. So that drawing before you, I've prepared in the break to demonstrate that recommendation of the panel to demonstrate that and what the knock-on effect to the levels would be.
Thank you. Thank you.
David, do you have any observations? Because you did some work on these numbers as well as we all did.
Yeah, no, I don't have any questions. I understand where it's at now, and I'm happy to discuss it, in the next session after we've finished with this.
Thank you. Are there any further questions regarding this application? Any other issues that we wish clarification of?
No, nothing from me, thanks.
No. So there are no other people who wish to address the panel. So thank you very much, Vaughan and your colleagues. Thank you for the information. And Andrew, thank you for your assistance. We may need to talk to you a little later again in the afternoon. But
that's fine,
if that's the case, that's item 4.4. There are no other items for the public meeting. So at this stage, unless there's any queries, I will close the public meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
People can switch on.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you to the panel.
And then perhaps the panel can reconvene in what, 5 minutes?